7.5, consideration of transient occupancy tax relief of penalty and interest, and we have tax treasurer collector Patrick Sullivan.
All right, good afternoon. Thank you, board. Patrick Sullivan, County Treasurer Tax Collector. So I'm here today on transient occupancy tax. And just for an update, I know it was mentioned in the memo, but recently our office did acquire new software. It's called Rentalscape by Deckard Technologies. Your board may recall about 5 or 6 years ago, we did have sort of an earlier version of a software like this from another company. That's what led to our first big sweep for short-term rentals in the county, trying to identify rentals that were not registered and were not paying taxes. Since then, this technology has advanced quite a bit. We've been very impressed with the results so far. As of April 30th, the software and our staff was able to collectively identify 172 unregistered vacation rentals, or short-term rentals rather, that we have sent letters out to. In addition, there's probably, I'm guessing from what we're seeing, maybe another 50 out there that we don't have fully identified yet. That's going to require further investigation. Just for perspective, we have 209 registered short-term, well, we have 209 registered TOT properties in the county. Something that could be a hotel, a campground, a short-term rental. So I think the interesting point to note here is that based off what we found so far, there are not just more short-term rentals unregistered in the county than registered. There are more unregistered short-term rentals in the county than any sort of hotel, motel, campground. So the scale of this is quite large, especially compared to the previous operation we did. So I just wanted to check in with the Board of Supervisors and understand how the county wants to approach this. As it stands right now, the original guidance provided by the board would still be in place, which would permit if it's a first-time offender and they cooperate with our office in our investigation and enforcement efforts, waiver of interest and penalties is possible. They do have to, at least under the current process, they would have to appeal to the Board of Supervisors. But the way we were dealing with that before was that if they had provided all the proof, we were able to actually get those penalties and interest waived before it came to the board. So that's why your board wasn't seeing all of those appeals actually come through, because most of the time people are able to remedy that beforehand. So I think there were only maybe 2 or 3 appeals last time that actually came in front of the board. But now what I guess I'm trying to understand is this is not our first time going through this. We have in the past informed people about this, and we've had public discussion of it. Does the county wish to continue proceeding with waiving interest and penalties if it's someone's first time, if we've never had a record of violation with them before and they cooperate? Do we want to continue doing that for a certain amount of time? I mean, are we going to offer that maybe for another month and then stop? Are we not giving full waivers? I guess the scale of what we're finding so far is much larger, and our office would just like clarity on how to proceed. The other request, regardless of which way your board goes, is that it's our belief it would be much simpler for Treasurer Tax Collector staff to deal with the review instead of having people do the appeal to the board. If whatever criteria we come up with are set, then it doesn't have to route from our office to admin to the Board of Soups. We could probably cut a step here, and that's the other piece, no matter which way we go. So I was just hoping for some feedback and guidance, and that can determine what steps are needed next.
Supervisor Pyska.
First, I'm really glad we never waived our right with Airbnb to go after these people, because that was something that came to us many times, and we didn't do that. So great job.
Okay.
And second, this is a lot. And it's just heartening that we've had this many operators operating for a long time, but because it's so many, I'm willing to give like 30 days of a grace period of if they're willing to work with us right now, come up with the payment plan right now. And we don't need to do it through an appeal, whatever's easiest for you. But I don't think that we should have this go on indefinitely, but it's a lot to deal with right now. and we got to get these people paying regularly. How much of this 172 is in the county and how much of it are they in the cities?
This is actually, we've already excluded the city. We were able
Holy
to
moly.
use that. In the cities, from what we can see, there's more vacation rentals operating within each of the cities than I believe they have registered as well. So this is a issue throughout the county.
Not surprising, since we've figured some areas, I won't say where, had alarmingly low numbers of reported short-term rentals. So I'm glad that we're doing this. And yeah, I think we need to handle this as fast as we can and get everybody to agree to start making these payments in 30 days. Do we have any idea how long these people have been operating?
So that really depends. Most of the people, from what I've seen, have been operating in the past 2 to 3 years. There are some that are going back further than that, but that's somewhat rare, only because we did do that sweep before.
Yeah.
But that sweep was imperfect. The technology was not as good. There are people who sort of slipped through the cracks there and have not had notice. But I would just say from what I've seen so far, 2 to 3 years is the average. I would qualify that, though, as well, that some of these people put up their listings seasonally. So right now, there's about 2,000 listings countywide, which, but people list on multiple platforms. So there's not 2,000, that's why there's not 2,000 unique properties, but 2,000 listings, but people take them up and put them down. So I don't know, this is just a moment in time.
Right. I was going to ask about seasonal listings. So are we going to be running this monthly, or what's the frequency?
The software actually updates daily. So this is a lot more sophisticated than anything we've had in the past.
And how much did we pay for this?
$10,000 roughly for the year. So it was definitely really well worth the investment. There's a lot of staff time, though. I just want to qualify that. This is a lot of follow-up work. So it's still going to be a long process to get through all of this.
Right. Yeah, but this is important revenue that needs to come to the county.
And this has primarily been since COVID, basically.
Yeah, what we're looking at now is primarily post-COVID. Like I said, anything past 3 years is a bit more rare.
That's interesting.
Supervisor Sabatier?
So appreciate you bringing this to us. I think this is not the same situation as last time. We have housing shortages. This is not helping our housing. Rent is through the roof, and we're about to give a buy for people who do not have a fair business practice, who potentially have been undercutting other people who are following the rules and paying their taxes. So I don't think we need to do the full gamut of what's possible, penalties and interest. I think interest is really compounding, but I'd love to do the 50% and meet halfway and say penalties need to apply. It's on your website. It says transient occupancy tax. It talks about it. If you open up a store and you don't pay your sales tax, we're not going to tell you it's okay, but from now on you need to pay your sales tax. We're going to come after you. The state's going to come after you. We can't let this slide. We've already done it once. They're sliding by, and us saying it's okay, who else are we going to say it's okay to as well? People with code enforcement violations? Like, you have a responsibility when you're taking care of a business to do the right thing. So I think we need to get people in line, and from now on, after this one, it's the full gamut. That's my position.
Real quick, Patrick, does it compare and contrast how other counties are affected by this same situation that you're dealing with, or something that's similar? I mean, I know it's not always going to be the same, but is there any type of comparison?
So I think there's other counties, especially rural counties, that have a vacation destination attraction like we do. They've experienced this as well, where they've just located a number of unregistered rentals that far exceeded what anyone expected. The way in which counties have handled that has been drastically different, right? So I think you've seen everything from what we're doing, where they're waiving interest and penalties, to counties that struck a deal with Airbnb and agreed to forgive all the back taxes and penalties. And so, yeah, I think you could probably find an example of any which way you could. I think our approach has been somewhat measured, because we haven't forgiven the back taxes, but we have worked with people in terms of payments, and at least up until this point, we have offered penalty and interest relief. So I guess if I could say from my perspective, I think we're somewhere in the middle of how we're approaching this.
And I know that last year, you and I had talked a lot about short-term rentals and whatnot before you went and with Rentscape. And an ordinance on our end would be probably ideal once you get this moving.
Yeah, I know our office, we have had contacts from folks that are, frustrated with some of the points you've had constituents raise, I believe, which is too many rentals clustered in one place, or the noise, or other issues associated with them. But that's where right now the only information in our ordinance is for transient occupancy tax. There's nothing to do with the regulation of that, and that's all through CDD. So I think perhaps if you go further with that, or if any of the other county departments are working on that, we can definitely help provide data now that can really outline where all the rentals are and what kind of usage they're getting, and that may help guide whatever policy the county wants to pursue, because I think this is a level of information we've never had before.
Thank you for that. Yeah. Let's see. Any other comments? Vice Chair? Yeah.
With another month or so of something like offering the relief, but I think,
Oh, your microphone.
Sorry again.
That's okay.
I'm okay with going another month or so with offering relief, but I think, folks need this has been going on for a while, so I don't want to go much longer than that.
A month, you said?
Yeah.
You okay with a month?
I'm okay with the month.
You too? Well, we have it. It's 3-2. Well, I mean, I didn't say, but yeah, I'd rather just, yeah, I'd rather just go for it now. I know that so the reason I say that is because with code, it's nothing against code. They're doing their best. There's some instances where some folks are still continuing, and now they've done a really good job with this. And I'm giving an example, so forgive me for straying off, but they're doing good with this dump day, and so they're able to give people these amnesties and using that as a baseline to do it. And then there is another one where we had somewhat of a amnesty per se, but again, I'd rather just take it from them, because again, the business practice of just kind of flying under the radar. Plus, that's why I also asked you if there was comparisons, because I've had a lot of folks that are doing Airbnbs, just heard them say that, like, well, there's nothing in place, so I'm going to do it type of mentality, right? Not only that, but complaining that we're now starting to look at taxes because they've gotten them in the mail or whatever the case may be, and so they're like stating that we're just trying to kind of nickel and dime them when they've been getting away with it for how long as it is, right? So I just, that's why I felt the way I did, or the way I do. But we have the direction you need. Maria?
Thank you. I was raising and lowering my hand because I wasn't sure if I should actually add anything to this conversation, but I just wanted to remind the board that currently the County of Lake does not have a short-term rental policy.
Right.
We have 2 different sizes of what we call bed and breakfasts, but that also requires the property owner to live on site too. So it really doesn't, the zoning ordinance doesn't address what we've been seeing the last few years with this uptick in short-term rentals. So the board may want to take that into consideration as well.
Right. Thank you for that. That's one of the things that we was looking at when I was working with Granicus, but then, again, you were working on this one, and I think this one was basically a better deal. So they were looking at something similar, but after you and I talked, this was the more ideal way to go. And they were also going to help us with an ordinance, but at the same time, we'll do that.
I should just add, because this was a below the dollar threshold, our department did go through a competitive bidding process to determine which vendor we went with, and Granicus was one of them.
Way more, yeah. It was way more than that. So, Supervisor Spatier?
Yeah, I just have a quick question. You're asking us to make a decision today on you handling appeals, us forgiving, not forgiving. Originally, when we did this, was it a written policy or a resolution that we passed?
So that's actually one of the things I wanted to get clarification on today, was that the original article that brought this into being was a resolution. So depending on what your board stated today, my thought was to bring back a resolution with the new direction. I don't know if county council wants to weigh in on that.
Only that, along with that proposed resolution, so staff can certainly, with board direction, work on that. It would have to be consistent with what's currently in place for, I take it, it's still transient occupancy taxes, right? And that's addressed in Chapter 18 of the Lake County Code. That's Article 2, starting with Section 18-10A onwards. That addresses, or that covers the procedures for the collection of these taxes, as well as the appeal to your board, and that is still in place.
Yes, and so the resolution, it was, just for everyone's reference, it was 2019-118, and that was on August 20th of 2019. And that's referencing the section of code that Lloyd is referring to. So since we originally did this through resolution, I'm assuming it's appropriate to update through resolution, or I can follow up later. Sure, okay.
All right. Anything else to add? Did I open it to public?
No, not yet.
I'll open it up to the public. That's right, there was someone on Zoom for sure. If you're on, please unmute, and you have 3 minutes to speak. David, if you can unmute. Okay, we'll go to the next hand. Mo?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can, yes.
Hi, my name is Madison. My family has been enjoying Clear Lake for 3 generations. We have a family cabin there that recently we...
Can you give us your last name, please? Sorry.
Amaral?
All right.
That we recently decided to rent out. We actually tried to look to see if there was a TOT tax, and we couldn't find anything. And I think it sounds like 172 other people might have had the same problem. I'm a good person. I always pay my taxes. It was truly actually difficult to find. And when I finally got the letter, I called the county, and they had to tell me exactly where to look. If you type in to Google Lake County TOT tax, nothing comes up. So it was actually really difficult to find. I want to pay the taxes. I want to support Lake County. I want to see it thrive. I just am asking if there's any sort of option for like a payment plan, because I simply don't have enough money to pay all of it at once.
If you'd like me to respond to that.
Yes, please.
Okay. We have worked with operators in the past to determine sort of like an extension date for payments, particularly if it's a larger amount. And so far we've been able to sort of reasonably accommodate that. We are stuck within certain timeframes though. Typically we really aren't able to go much past 6 months for other reasons, for both administratively and legally. So we can work with people up to a point, but at some point we would have to take enforcement action.
Would it be similar to how with the, back taxes that are owed, folks can get into a payment plan? Does that have any weight or any similarity?
It's not the same because that tax plan is unusual. That's laid out by the Revenue and Taxation Code with the state. Because this is local, it doesn't follow the same rules. But I would say we've been able to be somewhat flexible within that 6-month period. Much past that, we lose a lot of our flexibility. But if anyone has issues with paying, I would definitely encourage them to reach out to our office as soon as possible.
All right. Next.
So am I still on? So I did reach out and they said that there was nothing they could do and that they weren't sure.
Okay, well, you heard from the treasure tax collector that they're willing. So let's see if we can get you in to another phone call or some sort of correspondence, whether it be email or whatever, so you can ensure that we work that out. All right, next person. Nick?
Yes, hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, thank you for taking my question. My name is Nick, last name is Breska, and I actually have a very similar situation to the last speaker. It is a family cabin that we recently decided to start renting out, and we did research to try to see if there was any local taxes that we had to incorporate into that process. But I will also say that, we're just an individual family. It's not like we're a hotel. I know some people were comparing us to, bed and breakfasts or hotels. And, we're just looking to, enjoy Lake County. We would like to pay this tax, but it wasn't willful that we were not paying it in the first place. And like the last speaker said, we're just looking for some kind of an option for a payment plan. We've called into the county and received similar guidance on just not being able to make a decision one way or the other. And, we're really just looking for some kind of a way to move forward without, having to come up with thousands of dollars, in effectively a couple days. So, I just wanted to put that out there and also just see if there was any way that we could put together a payment plan. I wasn't quite sure if that was available moving forward.
I think it's looking like that's going to be something that the treasurer tax collector is going to work out. Did you want to add to that, Patrick?
Yeah, I have been involved in a few of these conversations, and I think one of the points of confusion may be is some of the folks who have contacted our office were pointing out that they did not collect the tax, that they did not put that additional surcharge on. So they were speaking as though they don't have the funds, which I understand, because they're going to have to pay it out of whatever they did collect. But we've had multiple people indicate that they aren't able to pay it because they did not collect it. And unfortunately, our office cannot waive the tax. So that may be where some of the confusion's from, is that you do have to pay. We can work with you and perhaps being some flexibility in when you pay, but you do have to pay, even if it means reaching in to the funds that you already received. There were some operators that had requested that that they were adding it to their account and that they were going to try to recoup more funds in the future, and they were going to use that to pay the back tax. Our problem with that is that we can't wait for future revenue. We can't just say, we can give you as much time as you need to collect it going forward. So I think that may be where some of the confusion lies, but certainly anyone that's looking for some flexibility in payment should contact our office and we can figure something out.
Thank you.
Okay, and just really quickly, because I think the deadline was today to make this payment, but we weren't able to receive any guidance based on, I believe, the outcome of this meeting here. So it sounds like we will be able to call back in and start setting up some kind of a payment plan now that there's some kind of a resolution from the board.
Yes, and that's Treasurer Tax Collector Patrick Sullivan's way. They're nodding yes. So please contact the office and go from there.
Thank you.
All right, is there one more hand? Mo, if you can unmute, and then no more hands on Zoom. And you said, sir, you had your hand up?
Yes.
Come on up to the mic, and you have 3 minutes. And this, please come to the mic.
Talking with Patrick earlier. I had to run out and get something to eat. I hadn't eaten all morning. But I just came in.
What, your name, sir?
Jack Sokolowski.
Okay.
I'm an Airbnb owner who received one of these notices. And I spoke with Patrick, and he told me to come down here because you guys were going to talk about the penalty and interest fees. I'm assuming that was waiver, that was, what's the resolution of that? Because it's difficult for us Airbnb owners because we didn't collect the tax. It's not like we collected it and spent it. We never collected it. And I want to make it right and pay my taxes, but I've only been in business for 2 years. And the first year and a half, I paid the quarterly for 2025. But the last year and a half that we were in business, not only was the tax not collected from the guests, because I was under the impression Airbnb was going to collect this tax from the guests and pay this TOT tax to the county. In a lot of cases, they do. In Lake County, they don't. I'm not sure why yet, but they don't collect the tax from the guests and pay the county. We're supposed to. So that was my fault. But not only did I not collect the tax, but the business didn't make any money the first year and a half. I've only been in business 2 years, and every penny we made, we put back into the business. So I'm pleading not only for no penalty and interest, but I want to get on a payment plan and pay the tax. But just something where I don't have to pay the whole thing in one fell swoop. I paid what I could afford to pay for 2025. I only have a year and 6 quarters from 2023 and 2024, 6 quarters in those 2 years to pay. And I just would love to pay you guys, but I can't pay it all at once. So can I work something out? Can we work together so that I can pay it? Because from this point on, it's not going to be a problem. Because the minute we got the notice, we went onto the Airbnb site and we added the tax. And so we're collecting it now from every guest we have, and we'll pay the quarter payment, no problem. You know, the only problem is the last 6 quarters when I first went into business, the Airbnb site never notified us that they weren't collecting it and paying. And when I checked the Airbnb site, it says that they do that with certain counties. And I had got a letter from a law firm that said they do that for a lot of counties, but not Lake County. For some reason, this one county, they won't do it for. And so I just want to get it all on the up and up.
Right. Your 3 minutes is up, and I think Patrick's, did you want to tell him?
Yeah, and I would just say we have Mr. Sokolowski's information, and I've already passed that file to 2 of our accountants that work on these cases, so they will be in contact to make further arrangements, including regarding payment.
Right.
The important thing is I wanted to get it in today because I knew today was the deadline. I drove all the way from Portland, Oregon to come down here.
All right, thank you. He's going to get staff in touch with you, and
Great.
You'll be able to go from there.
Okay.
All right.
So,
Thank you.
all good. Okay, thank you.
All right. Madison? Oh, spoke before. Okay. Please unmute.
Yeah, sorry, I had a follow-up question since I didn't use my full 3 minutes. That man is right. Normally, Airbnb collects the tax from the guest. If you guys are asking for this tax, why haven't you set something up with Airbnb so that you can ensure you get paid every time right away and you're not, relying on these independent operators to try and dig through tax code from the 60s and try and figure this out? I mean, I think there's people want to pay, but it's not very clear and it's not very obvious. And 172 people didn't know about this tax. That's a lot of people.
Is that the?
So if I go onto Airbnb and I try to book a cabin in Arnold, it gives a line item of the costs, and a line item is the TOT tax that Airbnb collects on behalf of the owner and remits to the county. Like, is there a reason why you guys haven't set this up?
Is that are you finished?
Yeah.
Okay. Go ahead, Patrick.
So I can respond to that. There are a minority of cities and counties have entered into agreements with Airbnb and some of the other online platforms. But in order to get into one of these agreements where they will collect it on our behalf, you have to waive significant rights. You have to waive the right to back taxes. You waive most of our auditing rights. They're rights that we would never waive with any other taxpayer, and that's why we have not pursued these.
All right. Any other hands? Okay. Close public input. Supervisor Sabatier?
So I can't speak to what their search engine gave them, but it pops right up when you put in Lake County, California TOT tax. You go to the Lake County website, you look up tax collector, and it's on the front page. You got to scroll down, but it's on the front page. I feel like it's a bad comment, but I feel victim shamed that the community did not get paid taxes and it's our fault for not setting it up correctly when it's right there, and more questions should have been asked. I also feel we are treating different individuals differently with today's action, where we have people who live in poverty who we fine and force to clean up their yards to meet expectations, but we're not willing to hold that same accountability to people who are running a business and not following the rules. Something is wrong.
All right. Any other comments? Anything else to add or finish with? All right.
No.
What do we have? I think we have, we don't have action, you just need direction, right? All right?
Yes.
Do you think you have do you feel like you have direction?
I believe so, to follow up with county council, and we can determine what the appropriate step is.
In the 30, you guys mentioned like a 30-day period to contact, something along those lines? That's what the consensus was, I know for.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I understood 30 days would be the maximum amount of
And then
period that penalty relief would be offered, and
then the tax collector and county council will come back for changes to the resolution that changes who the appeal goes to, because right now the appeal goes to us, correct?
correct.
Vice
yeah, I
Chair?
was just going to say, after, considering public comment, I still have the same opinion that I had when we were discussing it.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, if I may add, just along with that direction on the resolution to also incorporate a potential review of the ordinance itself, Transient Occupancy, Chapter 18 of the Lake County Code, as it relates to the direction of staff on that resolution.
Okay. Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Patrick.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you, Patrick.